No, actually, the weather constraint would be an anomaly. I say not an anomaly, but would not be the prime driver of any EMAS installation. Really, when you want to use an EMAS, or when an EMAS should be considered, obviously the starting point is you have a substandard RESA or RSA, and you need to get that up to meeting regs. So what you would do is you would come to us. We would take a look at how much space you do have in your RESA or your RSA, and then we would take that into account along with our your fleet mix. And from there, we would do our performance modeling to understand if the EMAS max bed or a green EMAS would be a better fit based on what your fleet mix is, and what is the max safety we can get you. There are a lot of EMAS beds that are installed that are actually not 70 knot beds, which is, as I'm sure you're aware, is what the FAA's ultimate goal is to have a 70 knot system. That's their first goal. And that's been, from what we've seen so far, as we roll out further and further and further in the world, we've seen that as a standard they've also been willing to shoot for or use as a standard. Nobody else has redefined it at a higher or lower speed. Another opportunity where you'd want to consider EMAS is, say you do have appropriate length RSAs or RESAs, but you want to look to extend your runway. Again, in the United States, we have what we call a standard EMAS. The FAA defines a standard EMAS as a 600-foot RSA with a 70-knot EMAS bed at the back of it, based again on your specific fleet mix. So if you did that at both ends, if you had 1,000-footers and you put in a standard EMAS, you would pick up 400 feet of runway on each end, or a total of 800 feet is another opportunity. The reason an airport might want to consider something like that, spending the money like that and giving up their 1,000-foot RSAs, is because you could be on the cusp with that extra 800 feet of now being able to take in larger aircraft, which could generate additional destination city flights out of your airport, which would increase your PFCs or passenger you see in your airport. If you're a cargo-centric airport, you could all of a sudden have larger cargo aircraft coming in with heavier cargo. So the EMAS could directly relate to increasing the airport's revenue. Again, another opportunity, I'm not sure if you can see this over here, but is what we call high-risk airports, or a tabletop is sort of a really good example. Is here you have an airport which essentially has the problem of a short RSA, and it's because it's elevated above the ground around it. An EMAS would be something you'd want to look into, because again, to do a fill project, first off, is environmentally, I'll say, frowned upon. It's not the first choice. We don't want to start just going around and digging things up or filling things in. Two, it is cost prohibitive compared to a small fill project, if even necessary, and then the installation of an EMAS bed. I'd say another high risk, or another one that's an environmentally sensitive airport or runway end, would be, we've worked with Boston Logan, and they actually built a 600-foot deck out into the bay. Again, building a 600-foot deck is much preferable to building a 1,000-foot deck out into the bay, with the disturbance to aquatic life, whether it be fish, clams, or even the submerged aquatic vegetation. That it gives them a balanced ecosystem out there. These are all just some examples of where you'd want to consider to install an EMAS and how it could help an airport. Again, the EMAS is nice to have is when there is inclement weather. If you look at the 16 successful overruns we've had in the EMAS systems, more than a handful of them have had to deal with bad weather and landing long. And again, they had a deficient RSA. They had the foresight to put their EMAS in, so they had an incident, but it was an incident and not an accident. The airport was closed, that runway was closed for a few hours. The airplanes removed. The airplane, in a lot of cases from our overruns, have flown away from those airports and away from those incidences within a week, 2 weeks of time. Minimal damage, if any. And then again, to date, knock on wood, we've had no injuries with an EMAS arrestment. Everyone's gotten out of the airplane on their own power, gone back to the terminal, and essentially rebooked flights.